All right, today's the big day. We should be getting this off of the boat today. So I got my assistant, my 10-year-old son Mark. He's here. He's going to help out some today. So here's the finished product that I did. This is a project I did on the Vernon lathe, making this lifting piece. Originally, I had sized this hole 7/8 because the eye-ring, or the lifting ring that I had, that I was going to use, it's a heavier one than this, had a 7/8 inch bolt. But what ended up happening was when I went to put it on, this part on the other lifting ring actually interfered with this ledge right here. So I had one or two choices. I could either, change to a different ring or mill this out so I could clear that, but I just decided this ring should work just fine. The main reason I like the other lifting ring, I mean, it was thicker, so it was stronger, but I'm not really worried about the strength of this ring. It's just that the larger ring made it easier to hook on with the clip. Enough about why that is. In case you watched my video where I made this, at the end of the video I showed the completed thing with the other side's ring on it. So anyways, this is a little tricky to start. This is a Class Steve thread. If there was such a thing. It's just that it's such a fine thread. I'm sure it has nothing to do with the person who made these threads. All right, Mark, this is where you can help out. Need you to get up in the boat from this side. I can do this if you want me to do it. Do you want to do it?
What am I doing?
I'm gonna have you tighten that big wrench.
What? Tighten what?
That with the big wrench.
Okay, I'll do it.
All right, great. Climb up there. Oh, it's heavy. All right, you're gonna use the open end. Yeah, go ahead.
Wait, here?
Yeah, that's the wrong way. I mean, you're turning. No, you're turning it the right way, but you want to have the wrench. Turn the wrench around. There you go. That's it. See how it's got an angle to it? That's less likely to slip off that way if you do it that way. Oh yeah, beautiful. All right, that's pretty much it. That looks like it's as far as it's gonna go. That's plenty. That's at least 3/4 of an inch of the thread is in there. So now we're gonna put this on.
Not even going in.
Now it is. I'm gonna put this on like this. Okay. Now I gotta go get the backhoe. So we can put the loader up over it and hang that thing called the chain fall. I'm gonna hang that off of the loader and use it to lift this whole thing. Can you get out of the boat by yourself while I go get the backhoe? Yeah, pretend you're a paratrooper and you're jumping out of the plane. I gotta get closer. Oh, it doesn't pick all the bolts out. I'm just gonna loosen this clamp and pull out these bolts. We took the nuts off, I just left the bolts in. Probably so this wouldn't slip off. Something, I don't know. All right, now that I get the bolts out that I forgot in there. Come on. Oh, oh, oh. Just broke it. Just broke the transom. All right, you see the LCD screen of the sun here, but I think. All right, so what just happened was when I was lifting it up, wasn't sliding off. And what happened was this clamping disc right here caught right when it decided to finally let go, because this had actually been compressed down. It was actually stuck in here from years of it being bolted on there really tight, clamped on there really tight, that is. It actually crushed down, so that the width up here was actually thicker than the width here. But anyways, so it was kind of stuck in there, and when it suddenly released, the boat dropped down, the engine went up. So the clamping disc caught the edge of this metal piece by the looks of it, and part of the fiberglass, and just ripped it right off. Tore this whole piece of fiberglass out. Now I can see that the wood in there is, well, it's a little punky, but it might still be okay. I mean, I don't know how you could even fix that. Well, let's finish getting this, there we go. Finish getting this separated from this, and see there's a rivet right there. So what happened is that rivet right there, when this metal piece got caught, pulled up, broke this fiberglass right out. Shouldn't have rushed it. When I saw that it was pulling up on the, I thought actually it was just that the weight coming off it was allowing the boat to come up. I didn't realize I was lifting the whole boat that much. So yep, that was dumb. This trim piece actually isn't that long. So I could drill these rivets out, take this whole trim piece out, do a fiberglass repair here, and then instead of putting another trim piece in like this, I was thinking of maybe fabricating something that would actually go over this and give this some more support that it needs for a motor this size to run on this thing. This motor's too big for this boat. We already talked about that. All I really need to do now is back up a little bit. Right now the motor is trying to swing too far forward. Alright, so now with the motor out of the way, you can get a much better look at the carnage here. So this crack was already here from this being pushed in over time so much, and this wood collapsing underneath it. This is what I just broke now. So this piece goes down like that. There we go. Like that. So it's still within the realm of a fiberglass repair. Possible fiberglass repair, but I knew that I was going to have to do something about this transom anyways because of this crack here and the fact that this was caved in. I'm going to have to come up with some way to beef this up. So my thought was to either make something out of stainless steel or aluminum that would actually cover this whole area right here, come up, wrap over the top of this area, and go down the back area. And literally sandwich this whole transom between a couple of plates so that as that motor torqued, the plates would help resist the torque stresses on this thing. Well, this is all theoretical, by the way. But anyways, we got the motor off. Probably take the outdrive off next. And then take the center column and the power head down the basement. Gotta get this thing ready to travel. Gotta get these chains in a way so that they don't run over. See you back at the house. Alright, so I've never taken the lower gear case off of one of these Mercuries before. So my understanding is there's this nut here, and then there's another nut exactly like it on the other side. Those have to be taken off, but you can only loosen them so far before they hit the case here. So these are going to be like the last two removed. So you back them off, break the case free, and then you eventually just take them all the way off, work its way down. Then there's a bolt down in this hole. Well, it's supposed to be a bolt down in this hole. A long bolt that goes through and actually holds the trim tab on the bottom here. That's already been removed by somebody. So the trim tab is off and the bolt is already out. So that's another thing that holds this on. And then from what I was reading, there's a nut underneath here that has to be removed. And oddly enough, on this one, there's two. I could feel two studs with nuts on them that have to be taken off. So this one's already a little bit different, even though the one I was looking at looked almost identical to this. So then I was wondering about the linkage and everything, and the odd thing is they don't really talk about how that all ties into this thing. There's a nut, there's a stud on the back here with a nut. That, well, that's interesting. Looks like there's a little bit of damage on the back of this. Right here you can see there's a stud that comes up right there with a nut on it. But right down below here in the lower gear case, there's a spot right here that looks like part of the casting's broken, and I can see threads in there. So I'm wondering whether or not, originally, whether or not that, oh actually those threads in there, that's probably the end of this stud. So it certainly looks like that also would have to come off. So that's going to be, oh well, yet another thing in the long list of things wrong with the lower gear case on this thing. Besides the big huge crack in it. Well, and another mystery is this linkage right here. This linkage clearly goes down through this hole into the gear case. And I don't understand what its purpose is, because all it seems to do is go up to this part right here, which I surmise that this has something to do with maybe being able to throw this thing into neutral if the motor is tilted up, if that makes any sense. Well, if I were to venture a guess, I wouldn't be surprised at all if there's damage on the back here, which is this chip or chunk taken out right here, this break on the casting here, which was allowing this the threads of this stud to be exposed, and this bend right here is all caused by, I'm betting, somebody sticking a screwdriver in and prying on here in an attempt to get this lower gear case off. Now, whether or not they ever were successful in getting it off, I don't know. I'm beginning to think more and more that this case was cracked when I bought it, and that's what they were going to maybe try and service it. I don't know. Either that, or at some point in its life, somebody else was servicing it and did that to it. Anyways, so oddly enough, I can almost see like another mark right here. It almost looks like there's a screwdriver was stuck in there. So the video that I watched the guy do this, it couldn't have looked easier. But again, on his, there was only these nuts on the side. This whole stud with the nut on the back didn't even exist, and I don't think this rod existed right here. But I'm looking at this rod. Looks like that's just a pin, cotter pin that can be removed, which will then allow this pin to be taken out, and that'll free this linkage so that this linkage can drop. Well, I guess it fits through this hole, I hope. I don't know. Alright, so all I did here was I removed this cotter pin, this clevis pin, and that disconnected this linkage from this rusty cross member here, which is really in rough shape corrosion wise, but I'll worry about that some other time. So I think this whole rod will actually fit through this opening if I get this to drop down now. So now, I'm curious whether or not if I just give this a whack. There we go. It's split no problem. And I didn't have to do what some other moron did. which is stick something in here and pry away. I just found another break over here. Right here on this side, got a crack right here. And you can see this is pushed up, and that's again somebody putting something in there and prying up right there, and they cracked that right there. So somebody just had no idea how to take this off. Either that, or maybe they figured since it was so badly cracked they didn't care about damaging it, but that doesn't make sense because they ended up damaging the part that would be left behind. Even if you replace the lower gear case, you're going to want that part intact. Alright, so what I'm doing now is I'm using the chain fall to lower the whole outboard close to this plywood that I put so that I don't have to worry about dropping that lower gear case hard and damaging it further. Alright, pretty close now. Alright, so I've just got the one nut on the other side still snugged up a little bit. It's probably the only thing that's holding it. Alright, so now I'll put these nuts away before I kick them. Nothing good can come from a kick of the nuts. So anyways, as I lift this motor back up with that's a little guide tube that actually, you sit that in there, and what that does is that helps you when you're lowering this. It helps you guide the water pump tube into the top of the water pump housing here. Well, it looks like that linkage I disconnected didn't have to be disconnected after all. In case you're wondering what gear this was in when I undid this, I have no idea. And there are some who say that you should have it in forward before you disengage it. And then there's others who say it doesn't matter. But the guy that I was watching do this said that you should have it in reverse when you're putting it back together, and he said he'd explain that later, and I didn't get to those videos because mainly I wanted to get this off today so I can get this top end down in the basement to work on without this to deal with. This can stay out here until I have some definitive news on whether or not I'm going to move forward with the repair of this outboard. Now where the heck are my gloves? That thing's dirty. Alright, I got the my extension there on the front end loader. That's what took so long. I had to go over and get that, put that on the front end loader, and that way I don't have to get too close to the house with the loader, because the loader is just a menace. The brakes stink. The shuttle shift, sometimes inadvertently you go to throw it in a neutral and you throw it into drive by accident. It's just a nightmare in close proximity of things you don't want to hit. So, like the house. So that's going to be good enough. I've got my plywood that I cut that fits right down on the bulkhead there. So I'm going to lower this down, and it should just start to slide down the ramp. Alright, now I gotta get down there, open the door, and try and get it over the threshold. Same drill as always when I'm moving something like this. It always seems to be right when the sun's going down and it's getting colder. That's when I've got to have this door wide open and try and get this thing in here. Timing stinks. Oh, the bracket is stuck behind the wall. I've got to get this thing. I'm going to lift this thing up a little bit, slide it over here a little bit, and then bring it back down again. Otherwise, I'm never going to get it in. Got to drop these in here. your board under there. Close enough. Get the backhoe out of here and close the bulkhead doors up top and come back and deal with this. Well, it took a little bit of jockeying and position, and by hooking on with the chain where it was and putting tension on it, I was able to get it to slide out over to this far, and then I was able to lift the head with the cherry picker and enough so I can get a furniture dolly underneath that end of it there. So now with it partially supported by the legs of the cherry picker and the furniture dolly, I can actually roll it some. Should be able to roll it enough to close the door. Not quite. Hanging up over here. Oh, my dolly's coming out from underneath the motor. Lift it some more with this and get it under there again. Should do it. Try right there. Now the big trick's going to be standing this thing back up. I mean, obviously, if I hook the chain onto it and I just hoist it, it's going to lift. And it's going to pick up from the end that I want to pick up. But as that's happening, it's going to be putting a lot of force on, in particular, these two studs that are sticking out of the back and this casting that sticks down into the, it's actually, I think, the exhaust tunnel. It's the tunnel that the exhaust gases actually go through and enter the outdrive or the lower gear case. So, I also don't really have this hooked as nicely as I would like it to be. So I'm going to have to do better than that. I actually want this hook in this ring. Right now, because it wasn't long enough to reach all the way into the stairwell there, I had to add this auxiliary chain. See if it's long enough to reach now. I don't think it's going to be too short. Oh, just a little bit. Oh, I think I've got a short piece of chain around here. All right, 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 all right.